Hello, this is the revision video for Parle for the upcoming test on relative numbers, covering adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, chains of numbers, order of operations involving brackets and powers. You'll be presented with a series of questions. I suggest when the questions come up, you pause the video, try and answer them yourself, then click play and listen to the explanations and check your answers. Here we have our first 7 questions. These are adding and subtracting negatives. I suggest you pause the video and attempt all of them. So the first one here, it's simply 4 plus positive 3. You'll notice that often we'll put positive or negative numbers inside of brackets. That's just to show you that this sign is fully attached to this value, the value that comes after. So the first one, we have 4 plus positive 3. That is exactly the same as saying 4 plus 3, and 4 plus 3, as you should know, is equal to 7. With the second one, we have 4 plus negative 3. When we are adding a negative number, it's the same as just taking that number away. So we have 4 minus 3, and 4 minus 3 equals 1. So taking away a negative is just taking the number away. It doesn't change if our first number is negative. If we look at the next one, we have negative 4 plus negative 3. Negative 4 stays as negative 4. The number at the front doesn't change. It's what happens inside here because we've got these two symbols here. We are adding a negative number. That is the same as taking the number away. So negative 4 subtract 3, and negative 4 subtract 3 is negative 7. Now moving on to the subtractions. We have 4 take away positive 3. Taking away a positive is exactly the same as just taking away. So this sum here is just 4 subtract 3. 4 subtract 3 is equal to 1. So the similarity with one of the ones above, we have adding a negative is the same as taking away. Taking away a positive is the same as taking away. Now we get the difficult one. 4 minus minus 3. If we are taking away a negative number, we are basically adding that number. So 4 minus minus 3 is the same as 4 plus 3, and 4 plus 3 equals 7. With the next one here, we have negative 4 minus positive 3. The negative 4 doesn't affect things. That's just our starting value. So we're starting with negative 4. Then minus a plus, taking away a positive, is the same as what we had here. Taking away a positive, and that is taking away. So we have negative 4 take away 3. Negative 4 take away 3 is take away 7, or negative 7. The final one, again, we start with negative 4 and we are taking away a negative. Taking away a negative we know is adding, and our starting number doesn't change symbol. So it's negative 4 plus 3, and negative 4 plus 3 equals minus 1. If you've got any of those wrong, take a moment to reflect on these, check through your answers again, check through the methods, maybe replay the video before you move on. This next set of questions is multiplying and dividing negatives. 8 questions. Have a go at them, pause the video, and when you're done, click play. So we have the top one here, 6 times 3. 6 times 3 is just 18, you should know that. And then the fun starts. So we have 6 times negative 3. A positive number multiplied by a negative number will give us a negative answer. So 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. The next one underneath, we have negative 6 multiplied by 3. Negative multiplied by a positive will give us a negative, so that's negative 18 again. And the final of this bunch, we have negative 6 multiplied by negative 3. Negative times negative will give us a positive answer, so we have positive 18. So what we've done here is we had a positive multiplied by a positive, giving us a positive answer. A positive multiplied by a negative, giving us a negative answer. A negative multiplied by a positive, giving us a negative answer. And a negative multiplied by a negative gives us a positive answer. Division works in exactly the same way with the signs. So the first one we have is 6 divided by 3. Well, that's just 2. That is a positive divided by a positive, giving us a positive answer. Then we have 6 divided by negative 3. Positive divided by negative is negative, so we have negative 2. So a positive divided by a negative is equal to a negative. Then we have negative 6 divided by 3. That is a negative divided by a positive, giving us a negative answer. Negative 2 in this case, so negative 2 divided by, negative divided by a positive gives us a negative. And finally, a negative divided by a negative gives us a positive answer. So negative 6 divided by negative 3 is just 2. A negative divided by a negative equals a positive. The rules are the same for multiplying and dividing. A little way of remembering it, a nice little tip, is if you have the symbols the same, your answer is positive. So 2 positives give us a positive, 2 negatives gives a positive. If the symbols are different, our answer is negative. Now chains of negatives, adding and subtracting. Have a go at these two, and then replay the video. So there's several ways of doing these. I'll show you a couple of different methods. With the first one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle all the positive values. So the 3 is at the front. There's no sign, but we assume it's positive because we wouldn't normally write +3 at the start of something. We would just write 3. So 3 is positive. The 5 is a positive, and the other 3 at the bottom, at the end rather, is also a positive. So we have 3 plus 5 plus 3. Notice how when I circle the numbers, the sign stays with the number that is behind it. So 3 plus 5 plus 3 is going to give us 11. So we have 11 in the positives. Then, with the negatives, I have negative 2 and negative 1. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. So I actually have my sum as 11 minus 3, and 11 minus 3 is 8. Another way you can do is just to go from the left-hand side. 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. And 5 plus 3 is 8. Same answer. You choose the method that works best for you. Now, sometimes we get a chain of numbers where there's a real pattern that is clearly obvious. Now here, if you look at it, we have 1 minus 2, 3 minus 4, and 5 minus 6. It's a repeating pattern. 1 minus 2 is equal to negative 1. 3 minus 4 is equal to negative 1. 5 minus 6 is equal to negative 1. And these are all added together. So minus 1 plus minus 1 plus minus 1 equals minus 3. We could, of course, have just gone from the left-hand side and gone 1 minus 2 is minus 1, plus 3 is 2, take away 4 is minus 2, add 5 is plus 3, take away 6 is minus 3. You could have done it that way. It makes no difference. You still get to the same answer. But I think looking for the patterns is a lot quicker. Next, we have order of operations. Have a go at these 4, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so here we go. Let's do the one on the top left first of all. Now, there's no real bracket apart from the one around the negative. That's just showing us that that negative 1 is a negative 1. So the first thing we do is multiplication. You know multiplication is done before addition. Don't change the order of the way they're written. You just do the order of where you process. So it's 10 plus 2 times negative 1. That's negative 2. And now I have 2 plus minus 2. That's the same as 2 minus 2, which is equal to 8. Now looking at the one below, I have a multiplication and a division. They have the same priority, so in that case we just go from left to right. So the first thing I do is do negative 2 times 6, which is negative 12. A minus times a plus is a minus. And that's going to be divided by negative 3. Now I have a negative divided by a negative, so that means my answer is going to be positive. 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4, so the answer is positive 4. Now to the top right. I have a bracket, so I must do that first. So I leave everything else in its place in the same order. My bracket is 3 plus minus 4. 3 plus minus 4 is equal to 3 minus 4, which is equal to minus 1. Now I do the multiplication. Leave the 6 at the front, leave the minus sign there. I have 2 multiplied by negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So I have 6 take away negative 2, which is 6 plus 2, and that equals 8 again. The final one, I have 2 sets of brackets plus the thing added on afterwards. When I have double brackets like this, I start with the bracket on the inside. So I leave everything else alone. So 3 plus 2 multiplied by 6 take away 8 is negative 2. And then that is divided by 4. And then I have my add 2. Now I've got multiplication and division inside the bracket, so I will do them in the order from left to right. So square bracket, 3 stays in place. I have 2 plus minus 2, or 2 plus minus times, sorry, 2 times minus 2 is minus 4. So minus 4 divided by 4. And then I have add 2. So now I'm going to do the minus 4 divided by 4. So I have 3 plus. Now minus 4 divided by 4 is going to be negative 1. And I've got my plus 2 at the end. So I have 3 plus minus 1, which is 2. So I have 2 in my square bracket plus my 2, giving me an answer of 4 again. Take a moment to reflect on how that last one works out. It is a little bit complicated. Maybe replay the video. And finally, we're dealing with powers, or also known as indices. So have a go at these 6. Just remember that when it says 3 to the power of 2, it does not mean 3 times 2. It means 2 lots of 3 multiplied together. So have a go, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so this one, 3 squared. 3 squared means 3 multiplied by 3, and 3 multiplied by 3 is equal to 9. The next one, I have negative 3 in a bracket squared. So that means the whole of negative 3 is multiplied by itself twice. So what I have here is negative 3 multiplied by negative 3. Now, a negative times negative is a positive, and 3 times 3 is 9. So my answer is positive 9. The third one, the negative is outside the bracket, and the bracket is the thing that is to the power 2. So what you really have here is a negative 1 multiplied by 3 squared. That's really what you have. So the negative 1 we'll leave alone, and we'll do the 3 squared. Well, 3 squared is 3 times 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. So negative 1 times 9 equals negative 9. The next one, we have 6 take away 4 in a bracket squared. 6 take away 4 is equal to 2. So therefore we have 2 squared. And 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is equal to 4. The one below it, we have 4 take away 6. Well, 4 take away 6 is negative 2. And negative 2 squared, that's the whole of negative 2 squared, is negative 2, the bracket, multiplied by negative 2, the bracket. Negative times negative is positive. 2 times 2 is 4. So my answer is 4. And then the final one, we do the bracket first. Leave the 8 in the front. Nothing moves to the front. Everything stays in order. 8 minus 2 times 3, sorry, 2 minus 3. 2 minus 3 is negative 1, and that's the thing to the power 2. So what do I have? I have 8 minus negative 1 squared is negative 1 times negative 1, which is equal to 1. And then 8 take away 1 is equal to 7. You may need to replay those and just go through them again just to check. Obviously, you'll find on Google Classroom more of the revision questions and answers, so please use those, and good luck when you come to do the test.